I didn't realize this in our first interview, but you actually represented Big Meech.
I did.
When he was going through his kingpin charge, was it 25 years ago or so?
Well, a young Drew Findling represented a young Demetrius Flenory in 2 counts of murder outside of Club Chaos on a Monday night.
Oh, is that case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the beginning, and so that was my representation of him. I knew him already, and he called me onto that case. And every lawyer in Atlanta I didn't even know who he. I mean, I knew him, but he was just Demetrius Flenory. And there was major hearings, and the case, I would never forget, the standing room only, and it was a big event in my career because I just destroyed their witnesses on the stand, one after the other, like just eviscerated them because it was a bullshit case. And he was ultimately never indicted in that case. And so he, and I got him bond. Then he had an ankle monitor, and then shortly thereafter, I had the ankle monitor removed, and ultimately they never even presented the case to a grand jury. And so the best you can do is have him released from the bond, and so that's how it started. And then, of course, later on, he gets picked up in Sherman, Texas, on the gun charge, which probably at the time was a way to just kind of get him into custody, because I think in total there were 105 people all over America that were arrested. Atlanta, Orlando, Detroit, maybe another city or two, and there were 42 in Detroit. He and his brother were at the top of the list, and then probably 3 weeks out from trial, the 2 brothers asked for a private meeting with one another and made a decision independently in exchange for the life enhancement to walk to the podium and enter pleas.
Yeah, I remember BMF brought out a whole bunch of DJs right around the time that he was on house arrest. Because I remember Blue Da Vinci, who wanted me out there because he was a fan of my mixtapes. He brought me to the Big Meech's house, the White House with the Ferrari with the see-through engine and everything. And he had the ankle monitor on at the time. People were wearing Free Meech shirts and so forth. And I briefly spoke to him, at that point. So I remember that time. And that's when Wolf and Wolf's friend got killed during a shootout in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right? That's the case you're talking about.
Yeah, it was Monday night.
Club Chaos.
It was Club Chaos, yeah.
I guess to me, what was shocking, because I didn't know who BMF was back then. I was told, hey, these billionaires, are flying out a bunch of DJs to listen to their music and just party and kind of, and this was not that uncommon during that time. You had small labels that wanted to get DJ support. There was Mix Show Power Summit. There's a lot of stuff like that during that era. But I remember getting out the airport, they sent a car for us. We're driving there, and I've seen these billboards that said the world is BMF's. And I got to hang out with these guys, and I'm like, okay, nobody's selling any music right now. This is crazy. The fact that they're advertising, and I've never seen anybody that flashy. Yeah. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, everyone's got $100,000 chains on. I remember the first time I saw the Jacob watch with all the diamonds on it on Big Meech's wrist. I was talking to him, oh yeah, Busta Rhymes has one, Diddy has one, I have one. It was like only 3 of them in the world at that time. And I'm looking at this going like, this is crazy. And from what I heard, they put one of those, the world is BMF's billboard over Club Chaos, which is where the shooting happened. And is that what really pissed off the feds at that point?
Yeah, so I'm with you at the time of the murder case. I didn't really know what BMF was. I mean, I literally wasn't focused on, I had other work to do. And so I didn't know about it either. And I'm with you, and probably a lot of other people. After I got him out, which was a big event, it was probably, one of the biggest events of my career at that point, because again, I get him out and the phones just start blowing up. And, the billboards go up, and then the billboard goes up over where Club Chaos was. And, is that the causal relationship? I don't know. But things, really started getting bad. Like I said, it started with Sherman, Texas, And then all of a sudden, the Detroit case happened.
If you had taken this to trial, because you were prepared to go to trial with this,
Yeah.
right? What do you think would have happened?
I mean, I dedicated myself to fighting that case at trial, so I'll never know. But I respected his decision. He was unequivocal with his decision. I could never really forecast. It was really been a long time ago. But we were, and I was all in terms of there was going to be some really critical cross-examinations. And I had co-counsel in Detroit at the time. But I was raring and ready to go. The decision was, at the time, I was like, wow. But it was their decision, and all I could do was respect the decision. A lot of people were going down. They were charging people left and right.
Nobody really walked away from the BMF case in terms of, and I've interviewed J-Bo and I've interviewed Blue Da Vinci and a bunch of other guys like Sosa. And everyone did some jail time, some more than others. But, I remember we did an interview. Well, I didn't do an interview. My man Cavario did a jail interview with Meech. And he basically said, well, at least with 25 years, which is what he pled guilty to, right? The plea deal was 25 years?
30.
30 years, yeah. Okay. He said, even with 30 years, I'll have a release date. If I blow trial, it'll be life. And I'm not getting out of that, especially with the feds. So, yeah, he made his decision. From what I understand, him and Southwest T were screaming at each other, like in the room and so forth.
It was a private room. We weren't in there.
Yeah, exactly.
We got permission. My Detroit co-counsel, he knew everybody there. He arranged for them to get in a room, and they came out of that room. And
they made the decision.
That was the end of the case.
Yeah, from what I understand, Southwest T had a public defender.
So he didn't to start. He had a very well-known lawyer. And then I really never really understood how that switched. He had a super...
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't really understand what happened. But he had a very well-known guy. And because, I'd go to this restaurant in Detroit and all the lawyers were there. It's some old-time restaurant. All these old-timers were there. And everybody was working on the case. It was probably the Detroit Employment Act of 2005 or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, the lawyer was gone. And he had an appointed lawyer. So I never understood how that took place.
Have you hung out with Big Meech since he got out?
I spent a day just talking to him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.